A first hearing for Dr. Michael McKee in Winnebago County, Illinois, which seats Rockford, where Dr. McKee apparently was working as a vascular surgeon. And it is, of course, the first court appearance related to the murders of Spencer and Monique Tepe. Of course, he is the Ohio dentist. She is his wife. And Dr. Michael McKee, the ex-husband of Monique Tepe. And what we can tell you so far is that these murder charges have been raised to aggravated murder charges in one of the more shocking double murder cases that Columbus, Ohio has seen in recent years.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the show that brings you the very best guests in all of true crime. We do a live panel show Monday through Thursday, and then Friday afternoons, a little more low-key with my mother, the matriarch of all true crime, the oldest podcaster in America at 86 years young. But we also bring you live breaking news and trials. We're bringing you the so-called au pair trial beginning tomorrow, but today, we've got a hearing in this case, the Tepe murders that we've been following so closely. And just so you know, let me just lay the groundwork here so everyone is on the same page. The hearing is not live. The judge will not allow it to be live. Therefore, it is being recorded by a pool camera, and then it will be fed out to all the channels upon its completion, and we will hopefully bring it to you on the rebound. The hearing is expected to be quite brief, and we're going to break down all of this. And as I noted off the top, murder charges upgraded to aggravated murder charges. And here we are welcoming back two Ohioans. The first off, Jay Fulton, retired homicide detective with this very jurisdiction, the Columbus PD. Jay, welcome back to you. And
good to be back.
Yeah, Jeff Weninger from the great state of Ohio, but he was a retired. He is now a retired lieutenant in the LAPD. He served the greater Los Angeles area for 33 plus years, but is now living back in Ohio and is in transit because he's a hot commodity with his book On Thin Ice. And we'll get to that if we've got a little extra time. But Jay, just sort of break down, what are we expecting today? Again, this hearing is happening in Winnebago County with the accused double killer, Michael McKee, who we're looking at here, a doctor who went to the Ohio State University undergrad and to its medical school. He was married to Monique Tepe at one point. He's arrested in Winnebago County, and that's where this hearing is today. How long do you expect it to last? What should we expect from the hearing?
I don't think it will last long at all. My experience has been these things are 15 to 20-minute hearings, basically because he was physically taken into custody outside of the jurisdiction where the charges were filed. He has a right to fight the extradition back to the charging county. So in my experience, it's seldom done. It doesn't ever amount to much. The argument would have to be made that they don't have probable cause to charge me with such crime. And at that point, defendants have to put on a case of some kind to get their to halt that extradition process. And it's not wise for them, generally speaking, from a legal standpoint, to put their cards on the table at a time so early in the process. So generally speaking, people waive their right and go back to the charging county.
Yeah, and Jeff Weninger joining us from the road. He's going to be a guest lecturer on his book On Thin Ice. But Jeff, to you, when I was talking to Jay and you offline just a second ago, Jay said that typically defendants will waive extradition. 90% of the time they'll just say, "Take me back." Why don't they fight it more, I guess? And what are you expecting in this first hearing?
Well, I would suspect that he would do what the vast majority of people do and waive that and go back without a fight. The reality is, he doesn't want to to show his hand, as Jay had said, and it just it'll just make for a smoother and more succinct handling of the case, even from his perspective as the defendant. I'm not sure at this point who he has as his counsel, and what sort of things that they have done, but it's very early for them, so they're not going to want to necessarily proceed with fighting the extradition.
Also, just so you know, we're coming back to you live at 7 p.m. Eastern time tonight, and the topic of the show is going to be, who is this guy you're looking at on the screen? Who is Dr. Michael McKee? Some people said, hey, I bet it's the ex. A lot of people did not guess that because of the amount of time that has passed since their divorce, but there was some sort of custody issue. We're going to be looking at that 55-page divorce dispute. But Jay, back to today, just again, with a little more detail, walk us through. He's going to enter a courtroom, I assume, in a jail jumpsuit from Winnebago County. He's going to be shackled to the hilt, I bet. He's going to go shuffle before a judge. The judge is going to start proceedings. And what the judge is going to say, do you understand, the charges levied against you? Or this happened in, Columbus, Ohio. Are you willing to go back? Yada, yada, yada. What's the judge going to tell this guy?
Yeah, it'll be echoed probably through, he will be represented at this stage, but probably by a local attorney, possibly even a public defender, just for the purposes of this extradition hearing. So that attorney will have had a chance to go over Mr. McKee what's going to happen at the hearing, and what the best decisions that Mr. McKee could make in that counsel's opinion. That attorney's probably not going to be the attorney that follows this thing back to Columbus, but he will be represented. And basically that's what the judge is going to ask him. We've got this information from Columbus that they've indicated and issued a warrant based on probable cause, and they need to take you back to Franklin County, Ohio, to stand trial for these crimes. And if he doesn't want to go, then there'll have to be a hearing, and that would just constitute investigators with knowledge of the case testifying in front of the judge, just putting a face and a title to the documents that the judge already has in his possession, and then the judge would determine at that extradition hearing if, in fact, Franklin County and Columbus have probable cause to return him to the jurisdiction, at which point the judge would order that thing to happen. So it's I've seldom seen it work out for the persons that choose to fight the extradition to the charging county.
I just want to say again, our condolences go out to the Tepes, their entire family. There's a lot of conjecture on our show, on just about every show, which I think is human nature. But these are real people really suffering. They were laid to rest, as far as I know, yesterday. Just an absolutely senseless double homicide. And now the 4-year-old daughter and the 1-year-old son will be raised without parents heretofore for the rest of their lives, which is just really unbelievable to think about, just because this guy appears, this monster over here, accused monster, appears to have had some sort of jealousy fit, or at least rage building up. Jeff, any more thoughts on that? There's all kinds of reports coming out that this was a very short-lived marriage, and we're going to dive much deeper into this tonight. But whether they were together for a full 2 years or just 7 months, apparently domestic violence issues were a part of this first marriage with he to Monique. Looked like she was able to get out of it. We played stuff from YouTube where she looked genuinely ecstatic to be with her current husband, Spencer Tepe, and that she had gotten through these really rough times. I think one of the reasons not as many people were suspecting it would be this guy is because the amount of time since the divorce, which was 2017, bringing us today to 2026. Any more thoughts on this, about this passage of time?
Well, inherently you would think that due to this amount of time that you wouldn't have this type of resentment that had built up. And I don't know if this is something you want to talk about now or at the later show, but that Facebook post that he made on December 30th.
Yeah.
When I read that, I'm looking at the language and the framing of it, and the implied mindset that he has, and it's really clear to me that he's asserting some level of moral positioning and superiority over who he's directing this towards, and he's rejecting any external judgment whatsoever. And that kind of speaks to his mindset, and due to this period of time that has elapsed, is this guy is not mentally well, and it's clear to me that he's been fixating on his ex-wife and her relationship with her new husband for some time now, and it just whatever it was the trigger that put him over the top. And I suspect, due to the fact that there was some type of court hearings and judgments relative to the family court issues that they had to resolve, that may have been the trigger and catalyst for him to perpetrate this type of a heinous crime.
Yeah, we're going to try to dig into that a little bit more. Those Facebook pages, we're still trying to corroborate all that. There's a lot out there, and trying to figure out truth from fiction here, but there are some Facebook posts that have been out there circulating. Burke 9497, love the channel and your guest. Et tu mama tambien. I love that. Mrs. Gator here. What I've heard, he is not practicing. He's been unable to pass the test for his license. Seems he's been stewing that she's gotten on with her life. Again, the COE has been doing some work on that, and that we'll dive a little bit deeper into all that tonight. But one thing we do know, we have paperwork and more files that we're going to discuss tonight, and the COE is putting that together as we speak. But to Detective Fulton, retired from the Columbus PD. By the way, if I said to you, Jay, who's the best criminal defense attorney in Columbus, Ohio, I guess who comes to mind first? Maybe that person will be this guy's defense attorney. Is there a name that pops?
Well, there's several names, and I don't know. I don't know if I want to go out on a limb here. I still work with a lot of these gentlemen, but there are several good attorneys that come to my mind. I don't know this guy's financial status, so I don't. The ones that I have in mind are high up on the pay scale, but then again, there's some very good attorneys that handle these types of cases that take appointments from the court. So I guess it'll have a lot to do with Mr. McKee's financial status. You hear the word doctor and everybody assumes sports cars, fancy, but I don't know that to be true. So the court will determine whether he's on his own to provide counsel based on his income or his net worth, or if the court will provide him a counsel. There's a limited number of Franklin County attorneys that do appointments that are certified to handle cases of this magnitude, because the recent change in filing from murder to aggravated murder, it almost indicates that this might be a special circumstance prosecution, with the ultimate punishment being put on the table. At that point, the state of Ohio requires a different level of expertise on behalf of these attorneys to represent clients that face that judgment.
But Ohio does have the death penalty?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're hearing that. Ohio does have the death penalty. Thank you to Nurse for God, too. There's so much work you all do in front of the camera and behind the scenes. Appreciate your channel, Pure Truth. We try to be as accurate as we can. Not always the case, but I appreciate that. And then he looks just fine in other pictures. No one looks like they have a soul in mugshots. Yeah, mugshots are not a person's best day. Jeff, let's go to this. So this morning, the news was that the charges were upgraded to aggravated murder charges. And even though you were a police officer in Los Angeles, you live in Ohio. What does it mean that murder charges were upgraded to aggravated? Explain that.
Well, it means that they have evidence that it's appropriate to upgrade the severity of the charge, which will then, in part, have the potential for a more severe penalty. You're talking about when they're like a murder for hire, premeditation, murder where there's torture or severe cruelty involved. That's the types of things that will escalate a murder to an aggravated murder. So, we don't know everything relative to what transpired in regards to these murders. Just even the best case scenario, they're unbelievably cruel, but there may be more to it. We talked about in the past how the dog was found in the bedroom with the children, and that I'm sure the parents didn't go to bed like that. I believe it was Jay that's commented on that he's a father and he has dogs, and that would never happen. So there must have been some sort of thing and evidence for the police relative to things that may have transpired leading up to and actually how these individuals were killed. So it's awfully sad. It's sad, period. But to think that it could perhaps be even more shocking to the conscience makes it even more sad.
Yeah. Jay, just coupling on to that with these upgraded aggravated murder charges. I mean, what are the sorts of things that they would have to bring the Columbus police detectives bring to the table with the DA to, for that to happen?
Yeah, the timing of this makes me think, and this is just me. I don't have anything to back this up. That he must have spoken with the investigators that gave them the information they needed to upgrade those charges. Because seldom would this happen at this stage of the investigation. I worked in homicide for 17 years, and I don't know that we ever upgraded charges once we filed them. We left that task to the court. The Franklin County grand jury would hear the evidence that we'd collected up to that time, and they would return the indictment. And the prosecuting attorney's office would explain to the grand jury what would constitute the aggravated murder charge. In this case, they came upon some information in between the Saturday and Monday morning, and they made the decision to go ahead and do this. It might affect any kind of bond that's set here in Franklin County on his initial appearance here. But the special circumstances in Ohio consist of, I think, much like Jeff said, you got multiple victims. That makes it eligible for the ag charge. You've got it during the commission of another felony, which would be the aggravated burglary, which makes it eligible for the aggravated trial. And you've got what they've indicated on the complaints themselves. They've established enough information to say this is premeditated, which is also an aggravating circumstance that allows that charge to be upgraded. So I'm guessing here, but my educated guess and experienced guess would be that he gave them some kind of statement or provided some kind of information that allowed them to go back and upgrade that charge.
Interesting. So it could have been coming from him. Here's a statement that the Tepe family put out. And this is from the day of the arrest, which was Saturday. Today's arrest represents an important step toward justice for Monique and Spencer. Nothing can undo the devastating loss of 2 lives taken far too soon. But we are grateful to the City of Columbus Police Department, its investigators, and assisting law enforcement community whose tireless efforts helped to capture the person involved. And speaking of capturing, we know a little bit. A lot of people are asking, hey, is that the same guy in the alley video, the walking man video? And to the best of my knowledge, police have not definitively come out. Jay, have you heard anything on your end? Because I know you're a little more tapped in than the average
Well,
person.
that is what I'm hearing, but it's more word of mouth than anything else. I've heard that individual was tracked to a vehicle, and that was the. But once again, I can't confirm that. I'm spoken to anybody that's actually in the know, but it was this series of what's being rumored is it was this series of videos splicing one to the next, which led to the individual getting in a vehicle. But that's once again, that's conjecture at this point, but it is what's going around.
People are saying that it is him, but we just simply don't know because we have not heard from the proverbial horse's mouth, which in this case would be the Columbus, Ohio Police Department. Thank you. Next, go ahead, Jeff.
When we get the footage from the hearing today, if at any point we see him walking, he has a very distinct pigeon-toed type gait, and we may get a little bit of insight depending on what we're able to view and what they release in the court video.
Yeah. Question that keeps coming up, Jeff, just to go back to you, and we'll keep an eye out for keep an eye on him in court if we get it, and we're keeping tabs on it behind the scenes here. Again, if you're just joining us, this is Dr. Michael McKee. He's set to have his first hearing in a court in Winnebago County in Illinois, which is where Rockford is, which is where he works. And I think he was living in Chicago. And it is going to likely just be an extradition hearing. It should be really quick. It cannot be streamed live. So the pool camera will, in the news business, as they say, re-rack it. And once they re-rack it and play it, we should be able to bring it to you. So we have no time frame, no idea. We don't know if the hearing started on time. It was supposed to start about 22 minutes ago. It probably wouldn't even last 22 minutes. So hoping to get you a hearing by the top of the hour at the very least. And then tonight we're coming back and bringing you Who is Dr. Michael McKee show. That will be the theme of the show. Who is this guy? Also, just so you know, I am from the great state of New Jersey, and I really wanted to bring the Paul Canero trial to you, but it is prohibitively long. It's going to be about a 12-week trial. Instead, this week, as soon as tomorrow, we'll be bringing you the au pair trial. This is where a husband started a relationship with his au pair, and then they murdered the wife and an unsuspecting person using a fetish website. It's an interesting trial, and never ceases to amaze us what happens and what people do to get what they want done. And the au pair in this case cut a plea deal. She'll get time served in return for testifying against the defendant in this case, and that could start as soon as tomorrow or on Wednesday. So that's what's ahead for Surviving the Survivor. Now, excuse me. Jay, let me go back to you. We are getting some information about how investigators identified Dr. McKee. Apparently, detectives in your own department there, Jay Fulton, tracked his vehicle on surveillance footage near the Tepe home around the estimated time of the murders, and that vehicle was later located in Rockford, Illinois, where McKee was subsequently arrested without incident by local authorities. Look, we talked about this on the last show you were on, Jay. It's hard to get away from LPRs, which are license plate readers, and other cameras and digital forensic tools. They simply saw this vehicle enter, tracked this vehicle. It got him to Rockford. It got him to their man. It's great police work. Walk us through that process.
Well, they have access now, individual cameras, people's houses. There's not a lot of businesses in that particular area, but there are city cams and traffic cams. And frankly, there's not a lot of traffic in that area at this time of night. Those streets are pretty still. And so once they were able to establish a vehicle, then they could backtrack and see when it came into the area based on the access to these city cams and with the assistance of the public coming forward with the video off of their ring doorbells, and any security cameras they have up on their own property to keep themselves secure, and you paste that stuff together, and it takes a lot of man hours. But without that stuff, I don't know if we're talking about this right now. So they did an incredible job of identifying it, and then once that vehicle leaves, they're able to track it, and once it gets out on the interstate or the turnpike, they're able to track it, and I'm sure there's been some interagency assistance in this. Clearly, the sheriff's office where this is all taking place they made the arrest, and so I think a lot of the law enforcement community came together, gave Columbus detectives what they needed when they needed it, and I think some people think this took a long time. Why did it take so long? You hear a lot of he was clearly their man from the beginning, but that's not how investigations work. And they followed the evidence, they followed the clues, and they were able to put together a successful case enough to get him back here. And I think there's more information coming. So
the news here, crossing a vascular surgeon. This would be Michael McKee, reportedly associated with OSF St. Anthony Medical Center in Rockford, has waived extradition to Columbus, Ohio. Has waived extradition. That is the news coming out of the courtroom. Again, the court does not stream live. Attorney said her client plans to remain silent and plea not guilty. So we're going to hopefully bring you inside the courtroom on a delay. That's what everyone is doing. As soon as we get it, I see Space Coast monitoring it as we speak. This is why I call us a global phenomenon. Ciao mods, etc. from Tuscany, Italy. We are around the globe. Not only does digital forensics catch criminals and murderers, but it allows the great people of STS Nation to come together through modern technology, which is unbelievable. But Jeff Wenninger, just going back to the using the vehicle entering the proximity of Wineland Park in Columbus, Ohio, and then being able to track it back to Rockford, Illinois. You know, all the movies with detectives are always glamorous and sexy, but there's a lot of tedious work. Talk to us about sort of the tedious work involved in something like that, in noting a vehicle entering a neighborhood, then having to figure out, okay, what is this vehicle? Who does this belong to? And then somehow tracing it back to Rockford, Illinois. That's a lot of non-glamorous time, late hours at the Columbus Police Department doing some incredible police work. What goes into that?
Well, really, it's like Jay said. It's about looking at the technology evidence that you have relative to the video, whether it's city or it's community members with security cameras on their residence or business security cameras. But it appears to me that they knew early on who the suspect was, and that's because they narrowed that time frame to 3 hours, from 2 to 5, when it originally was midnight to 9 a.m. And I believe that was before even they released this video of the person in the alleyway. So I think they already were on to this and just were taking it each step of the way, tracking from one camera to the next, and then it's quite easy. The technology is actually there, and it was just about putting their case together and determining when best to pull the trigger on this, and when everything was aligned. And like I've said before, I really, really am impressed with how disciplined the detectives were in keeping the cards real close to their chest. We've seen so many times where information gets out, and that what didn't seem to really be the case here. And but it's a really, really good piece of police work, and it's that technology stuff that always fascinated me. I mean, it's getting in and putting. You start out with this blank table, and you got to take all these pieces, and sometimes you're pulling. It's not like you get to lay out all the pieces because you don't have them all at once. You're just reaching in and grabbing a piece at a time. Then you got to try to figure out how it all fits together. And they just did an outstanding job of detective work here.
I think we might be getting closer to bringing you this court hearing. Records here say police were able to identify McKee as a suspect through neighborhood video surveillance, tracked to a car that arrived just before the shooting and left after. PD ID'd the car and ultimately linked it to McKee, which is sort of what we were just talking about. Jay Fulton, while we're waiting for the replay of the court hearing with Dr. Michael McKee, talk to us. You know, someone said smart doctor, but an idiot. Talk to us about, you know, this guy, by all means, I read somewhere like 17 years worth of education to get through the process that he's been through. Obviously, book smart, but then you can be dumb enough to use your own car, drive into an area and just be detected. Smart people don't equate to smart criminals. Talk to us about that.
Well, that's absolutely true. He's good at medicine, but he's new at crime. And he started off at the top of the pyramid. And I think we're going to find out as this thing unwraps that there's a bit of a snap at some point where while there was pre-planning that went into it, he must have been studying instead of watching crime shows. Because he made it would appear he's made a lot of mistakes, and that's what got him hemmed up. I think maybe his whatever trauma or crisis he was going through took away a good portion of the judgment, not only to commit this offense, but to do it in a manner that he was not likely to avoid detection. So I will find out, hopefully down the road, what motivated this. But something snapped in this gentleman, and he put caution to the wind, if you will. And it's a pretty sloppy getaway.
100%. There was something, and we're trying to dig deeper into it, that happened in 2025. Between the two, we don't know exactly what it was. I know the COE is working on that today. Again, one of the reasons we're a global phenomenon. Tuli Pool, friend of the show, friend of ours, comes to us from the Kingdom of Lesotho, a landlocked country next to South Africa. So we literally have people all over the place. By the way, if you appreciate the content, we've been all over the story. Please please subscribe. We've got an active Patreon page where the COE will be putting in the divorce documents and the charging documents and things like that into the Patreon page. But Jeff Wenninger, I know you've had some time and I know you've been thinking about this. What about, everyone's asking the same question. How did this guy get in? Did he necessarily get in, or did he maybe brandish a gun at the door and said to either Monique or Spencer, who were probably half asleep, let me in or move over, yada, yada? What do you think happened?
You know, it's really hard to say. You know, he did know enough about her that, you know, if they happen to be naive enough, I guess is the word I would use. I'm not sure it's the right word, but to have the code to their keypad to enter, because I believe it was keypad controlled, that it may have been something that he would have known. An important date or something of that nature. If not, it's you know, what we know about the dog being in the bedroom with the kids, and it appears that there may have been a circumstance where he may have just come to the door and Spencer answered it and was confronted with a gun straight away, and he was trying to navigate how best to deal with this, and was going along and complying with what initially was asked of him. That very well may be the case. And just because we don't see or have evidence of a forced entry, it doesn't mean that a forced entry didn't occur. So that's also a possibility. So I really can't say. I don't have enough information to really know, but any one of those is really still on the table from what I know. I'm sure the investigation, they know more and can answer that.
Okay, we're starting to get some images that are slowly sifting in here. This is courtesy Law and Crime, this photo right here, and we're waiting to get the actual court hearing. It's on a delay. It should be over by now. He waived extradition. Jay Fulton and then Jeff Wininger. What do you see here? Looks to me like a typical criminal in a typical jail yellow jumpsuit, but this is a guy accused of one of the worst double murders in Columbus history here, Jay Fulton.
Yeah, that's a look we've all seen 100 times. You've made this decision, you followed through with this plan, and he's going to have that look a lot over the next year, 18 months, as this thing winds its way through court. What the hell did I do? That's what that look says to me. You're always prepared to prepare yourself to commit that crime, but the aftermath is going to be something that's out of any of his life experience, and it's going to continue to be that way for the remainder of his life.
Wow. The ramifications here for everyone extend like eternally. This is going to happen until his last breath. He's now destroyed his life. He's destroyed the lives of Spencer and Monique Tepe, and effectively, hopefully they're young enough to recover, but the children are 4 and 1. The son's name is Beckham. I believe the daughter's Amelia, and their lives forevermore are going to be without their biological parents, which is, just unfathomable. Jeff Wininger, do you think this went into his calculus at all? I don't, but do you think any of his only real plan included, well, no one will think it's me because it's been so long since we were together? Do you think that was going through his head?
No, I don't think that he had any contemplation relative to the probability of being caught or not, and as a factor in his determination of whether he was going to do this. To me, I think he has some type of a superiority complex, and he was carrying this out to satisfy this urge that he had to prove something, that he was in control and that other people can't control him externally, and those sorts of things. Yes, I do agree with Jay that, it depends on which mindset he's in at any given time. And if he's reflecting, going, what have I done? But then I also believe there's a part of him that is a superiority complex, and he feels justified in what he did. And that's where I believe the detectives initially, when they're in their interview of him, would try to align themselves and develop a rapport. Now, what is a rapport? We use that all the time. That's kind of just like a catchword. Rapport is really where you're aligning yourself with them emotionally. You're trying to figure them out. And listen, I policed in Los Angeles, the home of Hollywood. And, I'd oftentimes go have a meal, and my waitress would say that they're an actor. But I'd always say, the true actors are police officers, because you have to go into every situation and read it very quickly and act in a manner where you can obtain compliance and be able to resolve things in the most peaceful manner possible. And that goes to detective work and the ability and understanding of how to interview somebody and read them and know how to align yourself with them, so they will provide the information that you're looking to get to bolster your case. But this guy. He's going to be definitely a study on psychology.
Yeah, for sure. If you missed it too, during Saturday's breaking news show about the arrest, legendary homicide detective Phil Waters investigated over 400 homicides. He teaches criminal confessions, how to obtain them. He talked about the difference between investigators and detectives. It was interesting. You can go back and check that out under the video tab. What about this, Jeff Fulton? Jeff Fulton is a retired homicide detective with the Columbus Police Department. I sincerely hope, this is our friend La Mesa Filipino Food Club from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I sincerely hope more charges are added over time based on what he left those 2 children to deal with for the rest of their lives. What about the potential for superseding indictments, more charges coming? Is that a possibility, Jay?
Absolutely. you would look to an aggravated burglary for the purpose of committing a homicide, which is another first-degree felony. Probably 4 counts of kidnapping will be added to this, because I think the evidence at this point shows that he did spend some time in the house. I don't know, but I would surmise these people were not free to go, or at least felt not free to go. That would include the children, some type of child endangering felony charges. So he's going to be looking at a laundry list of in the superseding indictment that comes from the Franklin County grand jury. I would anticipate 8 to 10 more charges likely.
Here's some more photos. By the way, Jay, at this initial hearing, the prosecution who present there, is that local? Are those local prosecutors? Or are those prosecutors coming from your county where Columbus, Ohio is?
Those would be local attorneys. All the attorneys involved at this point will be local. Basically, the state of Illinois would be represented, just like if it happened when we made arrests for Chicago and they held that extradition hearing. It was Franklin County prosecutors that argued on the behalf of the detectives from Chicago. But basically, there's not much argument. It's just basically reading the charging documents, reading the probable cause, getting the dates and times, and those things that the court nitpicks on, so that the judge, in making his decision, has the basic facts. So it's not a deep dive into the case. They probably just went on the warrant and the initial probable cause document, and then the attorney for Mr. McKee would be local, representing him, and they would represent him for the purpose of extradition, and they would give him their best legal advice as to how to handle the extradition process. And there we have it. It's about a 15-minute hearing.
Someone is saying in the comments, and I don't know if this is true, but it looks like it, that he is 6'4". That's a big man right there. The Winnebago County Sheriff's Office will be handling Michael McKee's transport back to the state where he's accused of murdering the pair. The transfer will involve the local sheriff's office and I guess Franklin County, which is Columbus, Ohio. But Jay, to you, what is the process with someone as high profile as this? How do you ensure he is delivered back to the county that's going to, mete out justice here? How do you get him back safely? Is he escorted by detectives? Is he on a jail bus? How does it work?
Well, I doubt he'll get a bus. He'll probably get his own van. There'll probably be. Obviously, I think maybe it sounds like Franklin County is sending deputies. They may work with the Illinois authorities to transport. Probably be 4 to 6 officers involved in the transport. Imagine the detectives involved will be following the transport van, either leading it or following it, along with probably 4 uniformed deputies. That'd be a drive that will probably commence sometime this afternoon. I would say as soon as they can clean his stuff out of his property out, whatever he was arrested with. And obviously these detectives have been working over there. They would be coming with the fruits of whatever search warrants they issued at his residence, vehicle, and whatever fruits that channel of the investigation revealed. And they would be bringing those back as well to log them into property in Franklin County, and commence the forensic examination of his phones and his computers will follow once they arrive back here.
Yeah, if you're just joining us, Dr. Michael McKee had his first court appearance. He waived extradition. He's going to be heading back to Columbus, Ohio. You just heard Jay say probably escorted by uniformed sheriffs. He's going to get his own vehicle to get him back there. It's about roughly a 7.5 hour drive from Rockford, Illinois, back to Columbus, Ohio, and he'll be trailed by these sheriff's deputies the entire way through. You see here from the COE in Winnebago County Court on Monday, McKee's extradition was waived and a judge ordered him to return to Ohio. McKee was represented on Monday by Assistant Public Defender Corey Poirier. That is going to all probably change once we get back to Columbus, Ohio. One of the questions also, Jeff Wenninger, that keeps coming up over and over is motive. You don't need motive to prove a case in court, but how important is it for police in Columbus, Ohio? And then we can have Jay piggyback you, but how important is it to get the motive, to get the reason from this guy why he did this?
Well, I mean, motive always plays a significant role in this, and in the reality, we're probably going to be able to find, or the detective will be able to find, forensic evidence on the social media postings or chat rooms or things that he kept, ledgers or notes and things that he had at home, comments that he made to other people, because there's going to be no stone unturned. They're going to be looking at everything and talking to everybody. And there's going to be some insight into what the motive was and what caused him to do this. And it's probably not going to be one specific thing. It's going to be kind of a buildup, and people that know him or are close to him from a perspective where they would know where he was emotionally, probably to some extent saw that he did struggle with the failed relationship of his ex-wife, and that he was in some way fixated on her and her new husband and the life that they were living. And it's just like with school shootings. 4 out of 5 school shootings, there's somebody other than the shooter that has knowledge that it's going to occur before it does. And that's similar to this type of a thing. There are people out there that are going to have some insight that certainly the detectives are going to be interested in, that will speak to the motive.
Yeah. Jay, just to piggyback that, I mean, the importance of motive, but also here, Diane, I assume that they would be far along in terms of having run the bullet casings, trying to connect ballistics to see if this guy purchased a 9mm at what point, where, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, they would have detectives on that right away, and with any hope that he still had that firearm in his possession, that'd be an easy match for Columbus Forensics. The motive is, like I said, we don't have to prove it, but boy, I tell you what, juries love it. If this was to see a jury loves a motive. It's, I guess that's ingrained from television, but we don't have to prove it. But I think when you have a ex-spouse, I think everybody can understand the basic motive here. If I can't have you, no one can. If I can't be happy, you can't either. I think we're all very familiar with that motive, and I don't know how far beyond that it will go, but the investigation will unturn all that. Like I said, his social media, his emails, the interviews they're going to do, the deep dive into his family. They're going to, I mean, those that will talk, they will be interviewed, and they'll get a good idea of what this guy's headspace was on December 30th. They'll be able to establish that, and that's those will be provable things in court.
352 apparently is the time of death, Jeff Wenninger. They came up with it. This person says because of the keypad. Other people are saying it had to do probably with surveillance video that maybe we haven't obviously seen yet, because we haven't seen 99.999% of what Columbus PD has. But what about this time of death? What's your best guess on how they come up with this specific time?
Well, being that specific would indicate to me that perhaps, like you said, it may have come from the keypad. I don't know to what extent the keypad would log all of that, but that would clearly explain why they were able to narrow down this time frame. I think it's going to be a number of things. It's going to be the keypad along with the other evidence that they get from the video and whatnot, where they're able to narrow it down to those 3 hours that they had. But now, did you say that the time of death that had come from the keypad or the autopsy had been completed, and that's they're giving a definitive time. I mean, I can't imagine they're doing that with an autopsy.
Yeah, I don't know. There's the short answer is just a lot of comments in the chat about a 3:52 time. We're gonna have to independently corroborate that, but we do know. Okay, we're loading the hearing here. We're gonna have it the full hearing here in a minute or two. Yeah, we're just getting that in the chat, but we're gonna have to confirm the specific time of death here.
They put that in the charging documents, which lists the time of the offense as 3:52 a.m.
Okay, so it's coming from the charging.
I believe that they have some evidence that would, either neighborhood canvas, so somebody heard shots at that hour, or maybe somebody had they had an Apple wrist monitor. Maybe that's when that thing showed absence of life, a health monitor or something. But they were specific about it, so I think they have specific information that would indicate whether it's somebody heard gunshots, the cameras, the baby monitor, something picked up something at that time for them to be specific like that in the charging document.
Interesting. And I also went back. The charging document lists his height, or the arrest document, as 6'1", not 6'4". Still a big guy with a big old thick neck there. One thing that's interesting, Jeff Weninger, is they've gone and interviewed, and we've had a couple people reach out to us who've actually had interaction with Dr. Michael McKee. One was a vascular nurse who emailed us and said he was always perfectly professional and kind and nice. How do you square that with now a guy who's accused of double murder, Jeff Weninger? Are double murderers nice when they're at work?
Yeah, I mean, I don't give much credence to somebody at work that just says I knew him to be a really nice guy. I mean, the reality is you don't know a lot of personal aspects of people's lives behind the scenes, and you really aren't in a position to comment on that if you just know somebody from work. There's a lot more to it than that, and people that, truth be told, the people that are the most toxic and are the risk of most threat to people are those that actually are capable and very good at hiding who they actually really are. So that's not surprising at all to me.
Yeah, Janet here chiming in with time of death probably identified, as you heard Jay Fulton say this, by a watch app. Here we go. This is the hearing. Going to remove all comments. The COE has it ready to go. This is from earlier today. Dr. Michael McKee, first time in court in Winnebago County in Illinois. Stand by, everybody.
Third order for the defendant present in custody.
Can you check for the record? Michael McKee. Have you had a chance to speak with him?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your position in this?
Yes, at this time, Your Honor, on behalf of Mr. McKee, I will assert his right to counsel. I will assert his right to remain silent. And Mr. McKee believes that the most expeditious manner in which he may defend himself against the charges pending in Ohio and to plead not guilty would be to waive his right to an extradition hearing and to have a governor's warrant and to agree to his immediate transportation to Ohio.
Understood, thank you. We will set this matter then for 2 o'clock on Monday for status on the transfer.
Thank you.
Anything else we can do today?
That was the order.
Thank you, Kirk. Thanks, everyone.
Well, Judge Donald Shriver there in Winnebago County appears to have done this before. Very matter of fact, that entire hearing lasted definitely under 2 minutes, I would say. COE, if we can re-rack it without audio, just play it without audio. Jay Fulton, I'm going to let you go here. Just what you saw, asserting, by the way, waiving his right to extradition and asserting his right to counsel, asserting a right to remain silent. And basically, the attorney says he plans to plead not guilty. We see him walking in. What struck out, or what struck you as you were watching this?
Well, he does appear to be a bit of an arrogant individual. He doesn't appear to be very affected by what's going on here. It's very matter of fact. It's not every day that somebody gets extradited to face double homicide charges, but the attorney pretty much did exactly what I would have anticipated. That indication means that she doesn't want any officers talking to him on the drive home. So she's covered that loophole there, where that's sometimes a trip that could spark a conversation. So she's invoked that right. And like I said, he looks like he's anxious to face the charges in Franklin County. So let's let him do that.
Yeah, Space Coaster or COE, I'm not sure who, but can we re-rack it to the beginning and get him walking in? And Jeff, I know you were watching that. What's your best guess now, Jeff? Is this the alley man that we're looking at here walking in? He's a big boy, by the way. This guy looks much bigger than 6'1" to me, standing there. But we're going to re-rack it. Jeff, first, does it look like alley man to you here?
You know, I would say that he appears to be larger than the booking document says at 6'1", 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. He is quite a large guy. Now, as he walked in, he appeared, although we can't see his feet, and his who knows, I don't know if his ankles are actually chained up or not, but I don't know what their procedures are there in that court. But, you know, he appeared that he may have kind of that same similar pigeon-toed gait, but it's hard to say. Really, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if that was him in the video or not. I mean, there's going to be a mountain of evidence against him. But, you know,
a lot, real quick, Jeff, a lot of people are chiming in saying that left leg is the same left leg from Alley Man. But again, Jeff's telling us there's a mountain of evidence that will come out against him. It's just interesting to try to figure that out right now. But go ahead, Jeff.
You know, the one thing I would say, and Jay kind of hit on it, you know, where she's talking about, you know, not wanting any of the officers or anybody talking to him during the transport. And really, the detectives don't want anybody to be talking to him because, you know, the reality is you can be a law enforcement officer and be engaging in somebody in just what you believe to be a harmless conversation, and you can really mess up a case. And because you are a law enforcement officer, and if they're asserted their right to remain silent, and you know you're violating, you know, the Miranda rights that somebody has, if you start talking to them after they've already asserted that, even if you're not involved in actually as an investigator. So you got to be very careful. We had that when I was a deputy sheriff, working in the LA County jails. You'd have people coming through, and you know, like the Menendez brothers and things like that. You had to be very careful not to talk to them about anything, because you didn't want to make the mistake of getting involved in conversations that you don't want to get involved in.
Yeah, let's play it back one more time, guys, without audio. But again, it is Judge Donald Shriver in Winnebago County. This is Michael McKee, Dr. Michael McKee, accused in the murder of Spencer and Monique Tepe, walking into court for the very first time related to these charges. He had no criminal record, so I think this is the first time he's ever walked into any sort of criminal court. Again, he asserted his right to counsel, asserted his right to remain silent, waived his right to extradition, will plead guilty, his attorney says. Jeff Weninger, it's all very kind of SOP, standard operating procedure. What part, if any, of the actual hearing stood out to you?
Really nothing in regards to procedural stuff. I would say similar to what Jay said. He's arrogant. He's got this superiority complex, and he doesn't seem to be affected by this. That's what stands out. As far as the procedure, nothing stands out. It's what would be expected.
Yeah. So let's talk about now what. This guy is in custody. He's going to be driven back about a 7.5 hour drive to Columbus, Ohio. You heard Jay Fulton, a detective retired with the Columbus Police Department, talking about the next steps for that. But in terms of your colleagues at the Columbus Police Department right now, Jay, who are doing the work you used to do in the homicide division, what are they doing today? I mean, are they still collecting evidence? What are their top priorities in the next, let's say, 72 hours?
Well, I think it's just continue to build the case. And once again, we don't know who was interviewed in Chicago or in Illinois. We don't know what was collected, but certainly the job one is going to be to download his electronics, whatever physical evidence. If the car has a GPS, that the vehicle in question has a GPS, that's going to be key. This is something they would have taken with the intention of bringing it back, either that downloaded it or taken it. Any kind of electronics, his laptops or the hard drives on his home computers, these things were all going to be, and they're probably already back here if the search warrants. And they're going through those with the digital forensics people, compiling the interviews. I think, at this point, you can kind of take a breath in an investigation, kind of get together with the team and say, where are we and what are the next most important steps, and then assign tasks based on that. And then that primary detective is going to keep wrangling the people that are helping him, and just continuing to gather that information. And that will continue up until this thing goes to trial. I mean, you're still going to have that tip line open. And like I said, and if somebody wants to call in and be interviewed because he was a great doctor and a wonderful person at work, we're going to go do that interview. And that's all part of the process. And we're going to continue to, they are going to continue to gather information to flush out the details. I mean, and it's you get to breathe a little bit because you're not answering the questions of the chain of command and you're not answering to the citizens of the neighborhood that are still in fear, because you've assuaged those fears with your arrest. So you get a little bit of a breathing space. And frankly, it's Columbus, Ohio. There'll be some of these detectives will be moving on to the next case. And the primary and his partner will probably ride this thing pretty much up until trial. Yeah.
By the way, I think I misspoke and said he would enter a plea of guilty. Not guilty is what I meant to say. Not guilty, not guilty is a plea that he plans to enter. I believe they said his next court date would be next Monday, if I heard that correct, but we'll verify that. We're coming back, by the way, at 7 o'clock Eastern. The show is Who is Dr. Michael McKee? That is the through line of the show and what happened with these divorce proceedings from literally 2017. Here's a question. I like it. Racer girl for Jeff. Couple quick questions and final thoughts, and then we'll wrap this part of it up. But if there's any DNA in the car, would they have that back already, Jeff Weninger?
Well, they're going to be gathering everything relative to any potential biological evidence, and I'm not sure how things work in Columbus and what their backlog is, and I can tell you in LA, sometimes it took time to get results of these tests, but. So Jay could probably speak as far as the time frame that they typically work with in Columbus. But certainly they're going to be scouring everything that this individual had contact with for biological evidence to bolster their case. Absolutely. One question I have for Jay is, we're talking 7.5 hours drive. In LA, we had an air support division where we have airplanes. Do you guys have access to that in Columbus?
No, we have helicopters, but it's for
helicopters. Okay,
yeah.
Because something that far, we would probably fly.
And I think we have actually brought defendants back on commercial. That was done back in the day. I don't think this is far enough to consider that, and B, probably not a defendant of this fame, if you will. We used to board the plane before everybody else got on, and it'd be a detective on either side of the guy and a guy in the middle, and then we waited till everybody else got off and then exited the plane. But this will be a drive. We've made that drive with I made an arrest in Janesville, Wisconsin on a homicide one time. We brought him back by car. So, it'll be a drive. They may bring his car. That may be another thing. They may contract with a Rockford tow company, put that on a flatbed truck and bring that whole vehicle back to Columbus with the detective trailing that guy too. I mean, they may bring everything back. I mean, that wouldn't be unheard of with the stature of this case and the key element being the car. That's what we've heard about. I mean, the charging documents were based largely on the car. So that car is a huge piece. Now, I'm sure it's been photographed, swabbed. Our DNA lab operates pretty fast because it doesn't have we don't have the volume of cases you would have had out in Los Angeles, certainly. And the homicide always goes to the top. So they will have swabbed the car, but I wouldn't be shocked if they loaded the car onto a flatbed and towed it back to Columbus.
Copper Horse, one of our mods, gifting 10 Surviving the Survivor memberships. Thank you so much. The best mods in all of the YouTubes. Jeff Weninger rubbing it in LA style that they've got planes. Now, Columbus, Ohio's a blue collar state, man. They do things the old fashioned way. They're going to tow that car and bring that guy back in a vehicle. Jeff Weninger, in your old life as a lieutenant at the LAPD, you were the big boss. You were the brass, as they say. If you were the brass here, let's say overseeing the homicide division, what would you want to make sure is happening with your detectives as they move forward with this case? Jeff is also the author of On Thin Ice. He's guest lecturing. Jeff, feel free to say where. I don't want to say it for you. And he is a speaker that is in demand, Jeff Weninger, and he makes time. He'll be back, I think, tonight at 7:00 on Surviving the Survivor. So, Jeff, your final thoughts, particularly about what you'd be looking out for as the big boss here to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
Well, yeah, first I have to apologize for where I am. I'm actually at a visiting center just off the freeway. I'm en route to Clemson University in South Carolina, where I have 4 guest lecturing speaking engagements starting tomorrow. But I actually left early enough this morning so I could get there in time for the 7:00 show tonight. But I'm only about an hour and a half outside, so I'll be good. But no, as far as being the boss, and listen, Columbus detectives, homicide detectives, have demonstrated to me that they know what they're doing, and they're highly professional. And it's my responsibility to facilitate assisting them with what they need. So it's really making myself available and my influence to get them what they need to get their job done. They know what they're doing, and Jay can tell you this. He's, it's at the end of the day, it's people like Jay that are the detectives that make people like me, their boss, look good. And it's really important for me just to kind of stay out of the way, but ensure that what's going on, the integrity investigation and the professionalism that has already been demonstrated is maintained. And listen, from what I've seen so far, my job would be quite easy.
Well said. Huge thanks to Jeff Wenninger, retired Lieutenant LAPD, author of On Thin Ice. Check it out as a little double entendre there, as Jeff was nearly an NHL hockey player. So you've got the ice, the thin blue line. You got it all going on there. Detective Jay Fulton, we just met him on Saturday during the breaking news, the arrest of Dr. Michael McKee. Jay, thanks so much for all your insight. I know that you know the lead detective in this case. Have you heard anything that you're able to share? Please send our congratulations to your old team there and your final thoughts here as this now moves to your neck of the woods.
I think I'm going to echo exactly what Jeff said. The urge to put out information now might be greater for people involved in the investigation than it was earlier. And I still think it's important to put this information out, but put it out in a timely fashion and not put it out in a way that's going to hamper the prosecution or the continuing investigation. So, yeah, I mean, once you got the body in custody, chances are, go out and have a few beers. This is what I did. This is what they did, and that's how the thing starts. But these guys and gals have been great so far on this one. And I hope they continue to keep that lid on. And it's important to let people know because people are interested. But at the same time, the most important thing is that guilty verdict in 18 months. So, yeah. And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, excellent to have Jay Fulton, Jeff Wenninger. These are the people we are seeking justice for. Spencer and Monique Tepe. They've got a 4-year-old daughter, a 1-year-old boy that are never going to have their parents. An absolutely tragic set of circumstances and a pointless, heinous crime. And now this guy right here is going to face the consequences. And hopefully these two get the justice that they deserve. We'll be back 7 o'clock Eastern tonight. We're going to be bringing you the au pair trial all week. On your way out, if you can, please hit the like and subscribe button and consider joining our Patreon page. Love you, America. Love you, Los Angeles. Love you, Winnebago County, Illinois, Rockford, Illinois. Someone mentioned the Rockford Files, one of the great shows of all times. And, of course, Columbus, Ohio, OHIO. We'll see you guys 7 o'clock. Guys, stick around 1 second.